Okay, we're going to watch this little clip with Lex Friedman from his podcast interviewing Dr. David Sinclair discussing diet for longevity. Now, his research has to do with longevity, human longevity. He does a lot of study looking at, I guess, animals, lower animals. A lot of that has been completely unhelpful. Human longevity has not moved significantly in modern times. There's no way to prove the outcome. Anyway, with that, let's go watch this thing and see what they have to say.
In order to achieve calorie restriction, eating carnivore, eating mostly meat has made me feel really good, mentally and physically. Is there something you could say about the kinds of diets that may improve longevity, but also enable calorie restriction?
And we see that people often espousing that humans that restrict calories tend to live longer, and there's a lot of animal data that does indeed show that. Now, the problem with that is that in the absence of obesity, long-term human calorie restriction does not really do much for longevity. Humans that are obese will benefit from eating less calories. Lean humans, not so much.
The data that's come out of animal studies, at least, it's far more important when you eat than what you eat. And this was a fantastic study a few years ago by my friend Rafael Da Cabo, and he had 10,000 mice on different diets. The only ones that lived longer were the ones that only ate once a day.
You know, when you eat is more important than what you eat. I think there is some level of truth to that. On average, people that eat once a day eat less than people that eat 2 or 3, 4 times a day. Probably true, but doesn't mean that eating once a day is clearly the best outcome.
But I still think the best bang for the longevity buck is to do both well. Eat less often and eat the right things.
All right, I will agree with him in this statement. He says that the best bang for your buck is to eat less frequently and eat decent food. And again, if you look at a carnivore diet, I will tell you the average person on a carnivore diet eats pretty infrequently because of the natural satiety effect that the food has. So a carnivore diet falls into the category of this sort of criteria that he uses. Good food, less frequent meals.
For 2 days, I felt terrible. I couldn't sleep. It wouldn't go down. So I'm now at a point where even if I want to binge on meat and fried foods, I just can't. It just feels bad. What do I recommend? Well, what the data says that plant-based foods will be better than meat-based foods. And I know that there are a lot of people who disagree.
I very much are one of those. Now, the reason for that is that there are no high-quality randomized controlled trials. There are no high-quality intervention trials that show that meat-based, high meat-based, low meat-based versus a plant-based diet over a period of time that is significant enough to project longevity. We're talking 30, 40, 50, 60 years has ever been done. You know, you might as well be, doing astronomy, flipping a coin, because it's not much better.
There's a mechanism that's called mTOR, little m, capital T-O-R, that responds to certain amino acids that are found in more abundance in meat. And when it responds, it actually shortens lifespan. And the converse, if you starve it of those 3 amino acids, mostly in meat, then it extends lifespan. There's a drug called rapamycin, which some people are experimenting with. You could potentially take a rapamycin-like drug and counteract the effects of meat.
The research he's referring to where it talks about lengthening or shortening lifespan is completely in lower animals, lower species, tapeworms, nematodes, mosquitoes, mice, and things like that. No idea if that actually translates into human beings. And the other thing is he talks about taking a drug called rapamycin, which will block mTOR, which, whether it causes longevity increases in animals or not, is it also destroys their muscle. You need mTOR stimulation to maintain muscle mass. You can restrict protein in animals and they will live longer, but they will also become frail and weak. But you can also cause those same animals to live longer without restricting protein or those particular amino acids if you just include exercise.
You'll feel great, you'll get more muscle, energy. But the problem is, I think it's at the expense of long-term health and longevity. Just like testosterone and growth hormone, you will get immediate health benefits.
The reason he's saying, I think, because he has no idea. There are a number of studies that will relate and associate having a decent amount of muscle mass highly correlated with greater longevity.
Well, think about what I was saying about the trade-offs between growth and reproduction, which is what a mouse does, and a whale that grows slowly, reproduces slowly, lives a long time. What meat probably does is put you in the mouse category. Super fertile, grow fast, heal fast. And then if you want to be a whale, you should restrict meat.
If we look at what is a whale's diet, a whale is 100% carnivorous, right? I'm not sure if he even maybe realizes that in his statement there.
From the synthesis of everything that I've read, I try to eat a diet that's definitely full of leafy greens. Particularly spinach is great because it's got the iron that we need, plenty of vitamins.
The iron in spinach is non-heme iron. It is highly less bioavailable than is the iron you would find in meat, which is heme iron, and particularly red meat. And so I don't think that's a very good answer in that regard.
Try to avoid too much fruit, particularly fruit juice. Definitely avoid that sugar high. Is not healthy in the long run.
I don't think you can speak completely confidently about that. Even though I am someone who, likes to keep my blood glucose relatively stable, I don't know that we can say, yes, that's definitely the key to longevity, although there is some data that suggests that.
The other thing that's interesting is we discovered xenohormetic molecules. The xeno means cross species. Hormesis is the term that what doesn't kill you makes you live longer. And so we're getting cross species health improvements by molecules that plants make. And plants make these molecules when they're also under adversity or perceived adversity.
We know that by eating steak, by eating meat, by eating most animal products, you are still getting those very same compounds in a more highly bioavailable form. It's not bound to fiber. It's not tied up in other various anti-nutrients. Remember, when a cow goes out and grazes on all kinds of plants that you and I would get very sick if we try to eat, it obtains and sequesters those very same plant compounds, and those show up in the flesh of that animal, and then we consume them secondarily. So we are still getting those supposed hormetic benefits consumed. Again, paper by Stefan Van Vliet, phytonutrients in beef is a good one to refer to for that particular discussion.
If it's full of color, or if there's been some chewing by a caterpillar, organic, grown locally in local farms, I'll eat that versus a watery, insipid, light-colored lettuce that's been grown in California.
Interestingly, for those out there that are sort of plant-based, vegan, ethical people, we now know these plants, when they are injured, do quote-unquote feel pain. They do get stressed out. They do have a reaction to damage. There is suffering that is occurring. It is recognized by the organism as such. And so for those of people out there that talk about sentience and those types of things, it's turning out that these plants have a greater level of sentience than we might have ever given them credit for based on a whole bunch of research.
Like, you try to avoid sugary things?
Yeah, anything that's sweet. I would rather substitute something like stevia if I need a sugar hit.
That's sort of a controversial one, I think, for many people. I mean, clearly there are benefits in that. It prevents glycemic excursions for most people. However, a lot of people are concerned about the effects of artificial sweeteners. Again, that's a very controversial topic. So in summary, most of it is just speculative. It's interesting to talk about. It's interesting to sort of imagine. Really what I base my thoughts on is that how do we get people healthy? How do we take people that are sick and suffering and make them no longer doing so? A lot of things I espouse: sleep, exercise, activity, circadian biology, stress mitigation, and of course nutrition are going to help with those things. And whether they make you live longer or shorter, no one friggin' knows. And these people that have a big platform talking about longevity, a lot of them are selling a lot of stuff. There's no guarantees on any of this stuff. But anyway, what do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about Lex Friedman being a carnivore? And what do you guys think about David Sinclair's proposition that in order to live longer, we need to consume basically a plant-based diet? All right, guys, we'll talk to you soon.